Welcome to AI for You, the go-to podcast for higher ed professionals looking to integrate AI into their daily work. I'm your host, Brian Piper, the Director of Content Strategy and Assessment at the University of Rochester. Join me every other Thursday for practical uses of AI within higher education communications, marketing, and student engagement. We'll focus on ways to quickly integrate AI into your teams to increase your efficiency and effectiveness and help you optimize your workflows and processes. I'll interview experts and feature relevant use cases with the goal that every episode gives you at least one thing you can take away and start leveraging in your job today. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome to AI for You, where we are broadcasting live from the AMA Symposium for the Marketing of Higher Education. And we are joined today by Laura Rudolph, the founder and CEO of Square One Consulting. Thanks for coming on the show, Laura.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about how you're using AI in your job.
Great. Well, right now, I work as a small consultant for small schools, marketing communications offices, and enrollment offices. And I find my job is to help them become more self-sufficient and sustainable by helping pour into their people, train them up, strategic support and skill building, and then letting them kind of take off. And I'll say I do my job well if I can pour into your people and then you no longer need me. That's a success in my book. And so one of the best ways I've found to help small schools is to be more efficient with their time. Time is a very valuable commodity, but it is very finite when you are a small school or you're a solo marketer. And so efficiency is kind of the name of the game. Where can I fit my time in the areas that are most valuable? And where can I find time and take away maybe some of those tasks that are routine or time consuming, but don't require deep expertise or complex problem solving, and allot that time elsewhere to the areas that it matters most. And so AI has really been my go-to for working faster without sacrificing quality. And so it's, not just for content, but I use it for graphic design, technical tasks. It helps me, writing and debugging code. I can, help it with graphic design, initial phases. When I have individuals who want to see a mock-up of something, you can really start with AI to help you do that. So there's so many ways that you can stay on brand and you can work quickly and you can feel confident doing creative or technical tasks using AI and being more efficient with your time.
So what kind of tools are you using? And are you switching different tools based on the school you're working with or on the needs?
Yeah, great question. So I'd say my initial go-to is going to be ChatGPT. And I think it's a really easy entry level for small schools. And so that's why I definitely use really expensive AI tools or anything that maybe they wouldn't have at their disposal, because I want to be able to teach them and train them and to be able to use the same tools that I'm using so they can see how I was able to develop what I did. So I work very heavily in ChatGPT. I will say that if you don't have a pro account, I don't feel like you really know ChatGPT.
Absolutely. Agreed.
And so it's $20 a month. It's completely worth it. And a small school can certainly find the budgetary means to make that happen. But I think that is kind of the go-to right now, because I think it's a really great entry point for people who have never used it before in a small school or if you're a solo marketer. I also, though, use Gemini and I also use Meta AI. And I find that they often have their different strengths and weaknesses. I do also use, Canva for schools, and they have great AI features to help develop things. If you're talking about other paid companies, there's a couple that will develop, presentations and slides for you. So if you are creating, you have a bunch of data and you need to present something to your cabinet or to the board, then you can quickly develop sort of AI. Beautiful.ai is one. And if you have that ability to do that, And so there's several that I use, but I think when I'm working with small schools, I try to start with those initial three, that ChatGPT, Meta AI, and Gemini, to kind of help bridge the gap between I'm not sure about AI and, oh, I can see where it benefits me. And so I never really want to introduce too expensive, platforms for schools that might not be able to use it after they know I'm no longer with them.
Right. That's a great plan. And so when you go into work with them, how do you assess what the best pilot projects are, what the best use cases that would be most efficient or effective for them?
Yeah. So I can have three primary uses of how I use AI. The first one is data-informed strategy is kind of what I would fall backward. A second one would be content ideation and brainstorming. And then third for me is personalization. And usually when I'm coming into a school that I'm working with as a partner, they are needing one of those three, if not all three of those items, which is sometimes the case. So sometimes they're hiring me to come in and say, we are starting our communication flows from scratch. We really want to start learning more about our audience, and we want to start doing these things. Because unfortunately, when you're a solo marketer or you're a small school, a lot of what you do is reactionary.
Right.
And it's hard to be proactive. And so AI can really help take away some of those items to help you have time to be more proactive. And so small schools also struggle with having the resources and people to do things like have a data analyst on their team. A lot of them do not. I never did. I don't know if I'm a glutton for punishment, but no position I've ever had actually had a marketing analyst. And so I was the person. I think a lot of institutions deal with that, where you're, taking on multiple roles. You're not just a marketer, but AI can take on co-developing and being a data analyst and being a copywriter. And so sometimes institutions will hire me to help form that strategy and help be proactive and learning more about the patterns and questions, for example, for assessing their chatbot responses. And you can put that into, ChatGPT and ask it to look at that and do a sentiment analysis. What, are there positive, is it negative or neutral feedback that you're receiving? What are the most common things of the questions that are being answered? And then taking that data and then using it to build out a communication strategy to address those issues. So that's kind of the first one. I think content ideation is one of my favorite parts about it. When you're a solo marketer, it can be very difficult to find that brainstorming partner. And I think I'm not alone in the creative world, that I really prefer to have people to bounce ideas with it.
Yeah.
And it's really hard when you're alone or you're a remote worker when you have yourself. And so I see AI as really my brainstorming partner. And so I can throw in a general theme and it can come back with really creative ways to approach it. So an example might be, I need to draft an email for a specific audience, and it can do that. But maybe we want to say, how can I then develop that into having interactive elements? Or I want to have this alumni outcome story that was written for the alumni magazine. I want to develop and change this into a student story, for a prospective student who's a high school senior. So how can I change this story for alumni to resonate better with this audience? And then I'm not sure if you're familiar with yes and, it's like an improv.
Right.
So it's kind of like an improv partner, and we have a basic idea, and then you can branch off of this. And I've actually found that I really love Meta AI for this, even more than ChatGPT. And it helps you build layers. So we'll say, here's this general idea. And it'll come back with the answer. It'll be like, yes. And what if you also added a social media post to this? And yes, and what if we also change this into a blog post that would resonate with the parent? And you just build and you continue to have those layers. And I think that's really great about content, ideation, is there's kind of an unlimited ability when it comes to AI.
Yeah, and being able to build and iterate on a project like that is a brilliant way to use the tool without having to go back and create a whole new prompt and add in all that context again about all this information that it already knows. So that's great.
One of my favorite things that I think a lot of people don't consider is having it find the gaps. I think we ask ChatGPT or whatever it may be, I want to create something for us, but I get to find the things that hasn't been created. And so I think playing devil's advocate is great for AI. It can poke holes in or suggest improvements to kind of keep you on your toes and help push your thinking a little bit further. And so sometimes these are some of the prompts that I asked, or, what important details, I might not have overlooked. What key elements or themes or ideas might be missing? What steps or follow-up tactics did I miss in this idea? Or what additional hooks or content elements could increase engagement and responses for whatever I asked to create? So I like it to find the gaps in things, even more so than just creating the content, because I think that means that it's thinking in a way that you are not.
Right.
And so it's an additional partner in dating and create content ideation. I also like it on the technical side in content ideation as well. And so I will say, here's a landing page and I'm thinking about this and how can I develop it further, or what can I do to make it more interactive, or what elements might be more appropriate for a parent as a senior. And so there's, all of those things. And I think one of my favorites is Walkford prompts. So kind of outside the box. And I think that's where AI is really great for a single marketer, is thinking outside the box. One that I used recently that I found online was, I want to promote our admissions program as if it were a luxury Disney experience. What would that look like? And you talk about, a campus visit experience, for example. Disney is a excellent example of someone who just visits your experiences very, very well and are very customized and very personalized. And so throwing in with random prompts like that, or asking it, sometimes I'll say, this email was written for higher education, but what if this was done by X company or another company? Sometimes I'll say, by Uber or some other company that may have the same type of audience, the younger audience, and ask it to develop it in a different way. Because I think sometimes we're very insular in higher education. And so that allows us to be able to think outside the box of how other companies might do that. So that's content ideation rates.
I love that. And we do get so stuck in comparing ourselves to other higher ed institutions, and really we could get so much inspiration from other brands. So it's brilliant using that.
No. And then personalization is obviously kind of the third way of learning is that for my clients. And just with all the noise that students get, I think it's really essential that our messaging really feels personal. And so it's great that you can create content and it can be branded and on voice, which ChatGPT isn't so great about, because you can train it up with custom GPT. I also, by the way, do a custom GPT for every client I know. And that kind of helps me keep me on track, but it also helps them as well to see what are the benefits of using AI. And so I can create a message sequence and say, okay, now change this for maybe first generation students, or how about change this now for a parent, or how about change this for a high school sophomore. And so being able to provide personalization in different ways, still maintain brand and consistency and the guidelines of having tone of voice, but it allows you to just quickly do that and take you so much more time to do it yourself. And so I think that's really repurposing content in that way is really good. And that helps personalize, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're working with, obviously institutions bring you in to work with them, they're interested in adopting AI or using it, leveraging it. What are some of the challenges you see with institutions who aren't using it yet or who aren't getting off board?
I think there's a couple. I think the first one is fear. And I think this is something you've probably heard on your podcast a lot and other places, but fear that it's going to take the job of individuals in the office, or no, you're going to need a copywriter. No, you're going to need these things. But AI is a tool, just like any other tool, and we still need people to use that tool. So you're going to get ahead if you know how to use that tool. And so I think fear can sometimes be a barrier for people to integrate AI really well. I think another one is testing it out in a way that is, and that's why I say it's kind of free. So that's why I always recommend doing the pro version of ChatGPT, is that they might just get a prompt. It's not great. And they I always who like to say trash in, trash out. So, right, it's about the quality of the prompt that you put in and where you're asking it to do. And the more specific you can get, the greater the outcomes to be. And so I think sometimes it's testing it and not thinking that it's worthwhile. Like, I could do this better myself. So why am I investing time into doing this? But I think the beauty in it is that once you find those prompts that really work well for you, you can make minor adjustments so you're not consistently writing. And when you make your own custom GPT, it has a great memory. And so you're not having to consistently go back and put that information in and remind it who it's speaking for and remind it about tone of voice. And so I think that's those two things are kind of coupled together. Like I'll try it, and I'm not happy with it, or I don't want to try it at all because I'm afraid of like what it might do. And also I think third is I don't want to try to manage this for my team.
Okay.
We need to, how do we put boundaries on it? How do we develop these principles around what AI is going to be for our institution and what the limits are? And I think that's a sticky situation that a lot of schools are still trying to figure out. I think we use AI more in our regular lives, and a lot of people think with the video. See if ever used Grammarly or using AI, right? Or spell check. But I think it's just the thought that AI is a bigger beast than what it is. Sometimes it can be overwhelming to know how I manage this for my goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Laura, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show. If people want to reach out and stay in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can email me at laura@square1ky.com, or they can visit me on LinkedIn as the Laura Kersey.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you sharing your insights and sharing your time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to another episode of AI for You. I hope you found at least one useful thing you can take away and start adding to your workflows and processes today. Remember, the key to making the most of AI is to keep experimenting, keep learning, and of course, keep creating. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to become a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Artis Kadu, Day Kibbles, Shane Baglini, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.